Hey, everybody. This is episode 2 of Zero to Hero. I am Jen Kwok, and we have our special guest here today, Troy Ritchie. Troy, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you go ahead and take the mic and introduce yourself.
You may never get it back, Jen. Are you sure you want to do that?
I am fully aware of that, but absolutely, I would love to hear from you, and even if that means the whole show, just take over.
I won't do that. Thank you for having me on as a guest. I really enjoy the whole idea, the whole thought process behind Zero to Hero. I have some interesting thought on that. A little bit about myself. I wake up at 4 a.m. I take cold showers and I read a book a week. I think that summarized. And I just finished writing a book. Yeah, and I'm unemployed.
And you're unemployed. Well, that is a great list. I mean, I'm definitely challenged by the 4 a.m. hour. So I'm guessing that's why you do the cold showers, is just to kind of help you to wake up.
Yeah, interesting that you ask that question. There is health benefits to cold showers. I don't want to bore you with the details. Something about your blood rushes to your skin, blood cells rushes to your skin or whatnot, and it raises your immune system. Really, the only reason I do it is because I believe that we have winning produces a joy. And I'm old. I don't play sports. So how do I win? Well, I can close that big deal. You don't control that. I mean, you really don't.
Right.
So the few things that I control, I like to win. And one is waking up without the snooze. And then you never look forward to a cold shower ever. So
yes,
it's overcoming a challenge. And so that's the primary. And let me tell you, there's a spectrum to cold. And so it's not warm. It's just, it's cold, and I come out shivering. And why do I do this? You know what? I'm putting my body into shape. And that's the reason I wake up at 4 a.m. is because few people do it. And how can I win based on the abilities that I have? That's one thing that I beat the sun.
I think that's awesome, Troy. I definitely know what you're talking about as far as what we can control and what we can't control. And I know that Scandinavians do that. I think it's for a different purpose, though. They do the hot, and then they go jump into the ice water, which is also has great skin benefits. So we can tell you're very, free and clear there. So I know why now.
Yes.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and get started with some questions that I have for you today. Sure. So that we can learn more about you in a couple sentences, Troy. And I know that you're really good at this. Give me an elevator pitch about you. Like, who is Troy Ritchie?
I don't pitch.
No pitches.
Nope. Don't be a son of a pitch. That's what I tell people. No. So I will tell you about who I am and what I do is, so I'm an audience engagement expert, and why that's different from a sales guru is that when you're in sales, you're really an expert on the product or service that you're delivering.
Right.
And I'm an expert on more people. And so when I come in to help out a company, I've talked to your husband numerous times about like, what is it that your audience really wants? And most founders, no offense to founders, most of them, because they're so smart in their solution, they don't have time to go to their audience and find out what their audience is doing. And I learned this while as a musician in a band, trying to be, rock and roll star or whatever. We would evaluate every time the show went flat. And we did that by the response from the audience. And we were not the best musicians. Like if we did a Battle of the Bands or if we did a festival, you'd have these extremely talented musicians. It's all about their music, man. It's about the music, and it's boring, right? We're sitting here in the audience like bored to death because they had no thought of the audience and who and why they were producing this music. And so when you think about like audience engagement, it's what does your audience say? Founder, I know you think you know what they want, but saying something like, well, they want to purchase my stuff because it's awesome. Nobody cares how awesome it is. That's completely irrelevant. So what does your audience really want, and what problem are you solving? So I'm the no sales pitch sales guy, or audience engagement expert, but it's around understanding what the audience wants. So then you can craft a story, and then in that story, get them to move from A to B, whether it's buying your solution or internal communications where you're HR and you're trying to motivate during COVID, whatever it is. When you move an audience, you need to really know what they're about before you earn the right to offer your solution.
Absolutely. So that's kind of more of what you do, and I can definitely appreciate that. But what about who you are? Like, if you were to say, here is my sales pitch for Troy Ritchie and who I am as a person, how would you characterize yourself?
Not to badger a point. The reason I don't believe in a sales pitch is because it's a canned presentation told to anyone, regardless of the audience. And so this is where I get into, like, who's asking that question for the purpose of, because my answer to you could be different to Kevin, to different to this, to different to that. So when someone says, who are you? There's many different layers to that. For the sake of this, 0 to hero, I would say that I am a loser that wins. Well, and to someone else, it could be a filmmaker, it could be so that's, and I don't mean to be argumentative on that. It's just, I don't have a one pitch. I don't have a one elevator pitch, because I want to know, okay, who am I talking to? How? And a lot of that comes with questions,
right?
Like, who is Troy Ritchie? Well, who are you? They answer, then I can kind of craft that. It's you should see me at networking events. It can be infuriating for people that are handing me their business cards, but it's a lot of fun.
I totally get that. And actually, my question in a sense was redundant, because you kind of summed yourself up with the 4 o'clock cold showers and the things that you have control over. So I guess in a way you've kind of already answered that question, by sharing some of what you do. Can you tell us about your social media journey, like where that started and where that's got you today?
Well, I tell you, I've always done content. I've always done stories. In my 20s and 30s, it was through music, and for faith-based music. I firmly believed we would be signed, and that we would have a gold record. I would take those earnings and go into making movies. So that was my plan at 16, 17, 18. I don't have the best voice. In the early 90s, when Boyz II Men and that R&B, Color Me Bad and all that. And so we were in Seattle, and I'm making fun of Pearl Jam with my singing, right? And like, I'm singing like, and growling, and I got feedback from 2 people. The first person was, they said, hey, don't make fun of Eddie, right? Because we're in Seattle, and, step off. You don't do that. And the other person said, that sounded really good. And so I completely shifted. And so I went into this rock, more genre, and I told stories through my songs, and that fulfilled me. Well, when I had a 4th kid and we had to move music to more of a hobby, my wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I started just maybe blogging a little bit or writing stories. I've got 27 scripts in my head for movies that I want to do later. So I've always had this storytelling component. Well, in 2016, I was hired by a good friend, Eddie Behringer, at a company called Snap. And he said, I need you to grow our higher education division. And I said, I got a good job. I don't want to quit. He goes, dude, come on, let's do this. And I said, okay, but you got to let me do whatever I want. Good, bad, ugly, whatever I want. And he did. He actually let me. So we started doing blogs, and then we do an email newsletter, and then people would click it, they would call it. And we grew that thing 400, 500% in a year. It was incredible. The roller coaster ride. Wow. Awesome experience. Right. And then they got funded. And when you receive funding, things change, and they stripped my ability to do content. And that was like 2018. I was furious. And I just started seeing what I call hashtag Milwaukee Magic. Shay Rowbottom, Jackie Hermes, Sam Lister, and Q on LinkedIn, and Sally Illensworth from Australia. And I'm seeing them do these videos and producing these videos. And so I went to Snap asking one more time to let me generate content. They said no, and I said, fine, you can't stop me from producing content on LinkedIn. So in April of 2018, I started producing content on LinkedIn, and that I write about in my book. The anger can do so much good, as long as you don't. Where anger turns to danger is when you are repressing it. Did I get bounced? Am I still on here?
You are still on there. I see you.
Oh,
can you
okay,
hear
cool.
me?
I'm just gonna keep talking then.
You go
Everything
right ahead.
went away. And so I took that anger and I put it to all this content, and it changed my life. The book is dedicated to the Milwaukee Magic and Sally out of Australia, because if it wasn't for them, I would have never gone down this journey of producing content for the benefit of others.
That's awesome, Troy. Hey, tell us real quick, since you mentioned it a couple times. Tell us about your book here real quick. I'd like to hear a little more about that. What's the title of it, and when will it be available?
Yeah, so I do a Monday through Friday daily podcast, micro, which I encourage you to do. It's different nowadays. Podcast is, you immediately think of interview format.
Right.
And you have all of these content creators doing 1 to 2 minute videos on LinkedIn all the time that have greatly impacted my life. Those are heroes, in my opinion. And I thought to myself, why can't this be audio only? So Seth Godin does a daily blog, and some of them are very short, like 2 sentences or a paragraph. I thought, why can't that be done in audio format? So I took kind of Seth Godin and then kind of the tidbits of information that we like to share, and now I do Monday through Friday a daily blog. It has 20 listeners. It's had 20 listeners for the last 2 years. I don't care. I love doing it, so I do it. And I thought to myself, if I only have 20 listeners and I'm not popular yet, famous yet, why don't I download these episodes, convert it to text, and make a book? So my tagline for my micro podcast, I end with, "You got it, now go get it. I expect it." So I wanted to title the book, "You Got It, Now Go Get It." And it's all of these Now, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, because I downloaded the audio. Converting it to text in a written form was a 4-month process. It's a good thing I got laid off. Quite frankly, I would not have been able to finish this. So I finished that 10, 12-hour days. And it's really a message of hope. When people think about success, someone told me the other day, how did you bring your podcast to a success? And I just started laughing because he determined it as successful. He didn't know there were only 20 listeners. If I were to go to ask for advertisers, 20 listeners, yeah, talk to me when you have such and such. And what I'm trying to communicate to people is that success is you going to bed at night feeling like you've done meaningful work throughout the day. It doesn't matter how many views you get, if it's gone viral, if how much money you're making. It's doing what you were created and designed to do. That is such a fulfilling. So for me, when I spit fire doing my podcast, I don't care if anyone listens to it, because I listen to it and it encourages me. And so that is the book, is to tell you about success is what you do. It's not the results or the score that others keep.
I love that, because it just makes me think about, we don't really know those moments where somebody has impacted someone else. And it may have just been one person that said something, for example, to Martin Luther King, or to, a lot of the historical people that we know, and it just put a fire under them, or it changed the direction in which they were going and led them to the things that they accomplished. You just don't know. So from those 20 listeners, you could be you're impacting 20 loyalists that are loyal to listening to you, that are probably, most likely, if they're loyal, they're taking that message and they're going and applying it out in the world. And then how many people are they impacting? So 1 to 20, 20 to 40. I mean, you just don't know. And you never know who's listening. And so I can very much appreciate that. And I think that that's kind of what this show is about starting at zero, and becoming a hero, and the different, there's a hero in each one of us. So how are we impacting people around us? How are we impacting the world? It starts with each one of us and our purpose here. So every superhero has a defining moment. So what is yours, and when did that come to life into your life and into your career?
Yes. So it's January 2018. In 2017, I decided to move to Vegas and give up kind of leadership at a particular company in Seattle. And so original compensation plan was based on leadership, and then I wasn't demoted, not at all. My role shifted to where I was no longer managing. And so when you no longer manage, you really shouldn't be held responsible for the overall outcome. So I had started asking about restructuring the compensation. We moved to Las Vegas, much bigger house opportunity than Seattle. It's a very expensive housing market. So I had a Seattle salary, living in Las Vegas, renting, and January was coming, and I was going to get comped out of around $69,000, $68,000, $70,000, which would be a down payment for my house, which I promised my wife. That didn't come in January of 2018. I went in the fetal position for a couple of days. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. And I was, you talk about that anger. I was hurt. I felt betrayed, and I was going to sue. And so I'm a faith guy, go to church, religious and so forth. So I'm having this conversation with the Lord, and to back up, at the beginning of the year, we do a word from the Lord for each family member, and mine was release, right? And then 2 weeks later, I've been told that no, you're not getting that money, and I'm like, what? That's not fair. And so I was going to sue, and I probably would have won. And I heard the Lord's voice say, release. I'm like, no, that's for other things. I don't need to release this. And and so I'm debating. I put the story in the book. I'm debating with the creator of the universe. I'm debating this. No. I have a right. I'm going to sue. And very clearly, not audible, but in my voice, in my head, the voice said, yes, and you'll win. And it will pale in comparison to the blessing I have in store for you. So at that point, I just fell to my knees, because so many times we have hurts and we hold on to them. It's our hurt. I have a right to hate you for what you did to me or whatnot. And because we don't release it, we're preventing so many future blessings. So I immediately forgave the company, stayed with them 2 more years, great relationship with anything. There is no feeling of betrayal. There's none of that, right? But because I couldn't make the money, I didn't want to put trust into anyone other than myself. So I started reading. So you asked about defining moment. I walked into a library and grabbed 3 books. And in 2018, I read 60 books. And in 2019, I read 100 books. This year, I'm at 50 books so far. And reading has saved my life. And it also adds for great content. And I know it's hard. I have 4 kids. It's easier when you're unemployed. I read 20 books in July, so it's easier when you're unemployed. But reading, you have no excuse. Everyone should be reading a book a week. That's my opinion. That was my defining moment.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Troy. Because we definitely all go through those times when we have to release something. And, for me, that was actually today. Definitely wasn't on the same, scale as where you were at, with what type of thing, but it had to do with relationships and just learning how to let go. And so I love that. I really love that. So what are the attributes that you feel like define a hero? Like, what's your definition of what a hero is?
It's a fine line with this idea of hero, because in a sales world, what I teach and what many teach, I'm not claiming that it's mine, is you want to guide the hero through their buying process. So in that definition of a hero, it's the client, it's the prospect, and you're the Obi-Wan Kenobi, they're Luke Skywalker, right? And then there's also the hero that we have inside of us, and that comes with self-belief. Now, being a church guy, church people don't like to talk about that because it's humanistic or because it's blah 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 whatever.
Yes.
And so because if you become like Prime just released last year a story of heroes that were awful and despicable, The Boys, I think it's called, and disgusting, and that's not a hero. A hero is someone that has the attribute of knowing their talents and abilities and using it for the benefit of others. So when I talk to content creators, you have to sit down and know you're an expert at whatever you're spitting fire about. Otherwise, shut your mouth. Don't talk about it. Go increase your skill set before you start sharing and start talking about it. And so when you have this fine line of self-confidence, self-belief, I'm a big fan of the word ego. I think ego is used inappropriately. People think of ego more like what vanity is. That's not the definition of ego. The definition of ego is self-esteem. So wherever you know of your self-esteem or high importance, so believing in yourself enough to know your abilities and your strengths and your powers for the benefit of others. Gary Vee, right? Fantastic. Drops the F-bomb every time he wants. Teacher comes up to him and says, "Hey, Gary, your daughter keeps swearing in class. It's really disruptive." He says, "I don't give up." And I'm sitting there watching it going, that doesn't benefit the others. There's other people in class. And when you get into this, so there's this thing of raising up your standards like Gary Vee, where, just being born, you're a winner, you're a champion, you're awesome. I love that for the benefit of others.
Right.
That's a hero to me.
Taking it a step further. That's probably the best way that I've heard it described. I've heard a lot of great answers. I think there's a lot of different ways you could describe it. But I felt like you really put it into you phrased it very well. And to me, that it seems that would equal maturity. It's people who know who they are. They know what their, like you were saying, what their giftings are. And then they not only know that about themselves, they go and do it, and are sacrificial, whatever that looks like for them. And so that's very beautiful. I like that. So if you had to pick out a superhero, because come on, the world loves superheroes.
Yes.
We're the good old US, we have all of our superhero shows. If you had to pick one that relates best to you, who would it be and why?
I would say Spider-Man. I was a comic book nerd growing up. I still have a bunch of comic books. I'm actually not a fan of superhero movies. And my kids are more about the movie side of it. What I loved about the comics and especially Marvel comics is a lot of them had mental health issues, and they struggled with things. And growing up, I was never the best at anything. When I graduated high school, we had eight of us, and so the principal would give the description for each person that walked up. And for me, it's what I love about Troy is that he's not really good at anything and he doesn't give up. My uncle wanted to fight him. It's Hawaii. People fight all the time. My uncle was furious, and I thought that was the best compliment ever. And so what do you do when you don't have natural giftings and abilities, and you want to be a part of this game of life? You've got to figure out what it is that you can do to contribute. And if it's not what everyone else looks at, then do it anyway. And I've got this philosophy called the power of suck. And what I teach when I volunteer for high school students and middle school students, or when I talk to people about doing content, I suck at that. You have greater influence when you suck.
Yes.
Because if you're good and you're naturally talented and you're naturally gifted, people are going to go, "Oh, well, that's just that person."
Right.
So when people watch my videos, or if anyone reads my book, and goes, who does this guy think he is? I could do this. And they go do it and it's going to be better. Then I've done my job. You inspire so much greatness when you suck. So your 0 to hero sign that I see right there.
Yes.
Very nice overlay. It could also be that zeros inspire heroes, right? I mean, there's two ways to look at that. Yes, coming from 0 to hero, sure. Also, zeros doing and someone looking at them going, I can do that. And then they go do it. That inspiration goes back to your point where we're all connected like dominoes.
Sometimes you can also just be the encourager, Troy, where you're sitting back and you're like, I can see that, that you're good at this. Hey, I believe in you. You go and do that. Let me tell you what I can see in you. I can definitely see in you a great confidence. Confidence, Troy, is a winner in the world. It's not everybody has it. Not everybody can create that. Or it takes time to create if you don't you didn't grow up with that confidence. You have to create it. And so I definitely love that. And
it's contagious.
He should have told you you had a great voice. I don't know I don't know what people were thinking. They should have told you early on, Troy, you have a great voice. We think you should definitely go out and be a newscaster or produce your own show, which you're doing. So I think podcasts fit you very well.
I'll say this to that. When I was 13, 14, I just started singing. And I came home one day, when your dad's a pastor of a very small church and they need special music, you're told to sing. And I came home and someone had one of my buddies, I guess, had came into the house and left a note on the porch, or I think it was on the porch, and it was a letter telling me how bad of a singer I was and how I think I'm a good singer and blah, blah, blah. And this was a long note just ripping into me. I put it on my my bedroom mirror. So I read it every single morning. Then when I went to Northwest College, people would criticize my voice all the time. And it just fueled my fire. So when people say in a summary, when I first said, how do you kind of pressed me on, no, give me a pitch. I'm a loser that wins. That's been my mentality. Is that when the world says you can't do it, I say, why not? Why can't I do it? Who said you can't? So I've eliminated a lot. I try to practice eliminating words from my vocabulary. Can't is one of them because I choose what I can do. And if it's worth my time, then I'll go do it. If it's not, I won't do it.
I have to say that is an interesting mentality. It is an unstoppable mentality. I don't hear many people say it like that, but I was watching a movie recently, and she called this girl in the movie called herself a weed. Everybody called her a weed because she was an unstoppable force. She would pop up everywhere. Weeds can come up in
that's right.
Very difficult situations.
That's right.
And it's hard to extinguish them. And so, there's a purpose for weeds. They wouldn't be here if there's not a purpose for them. And so that's pretty cool. So anyway, well, I appreciate your time today.
Okay.
And it's been awesome to learn more about you. And is there anything that you would like to well,
what's your producer going to say? Is he giving you the green light?
Is he giving me? I don't know what he's doing right now. He disappeared into the sunset.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. So I thought I would
awesome.
Just tell people where they can go to hear your podcast. I'd like to see that grow for you and
yeah.
You have some great content.
Yeah. So the future is faith-based featured film. And that will come. I was going to have a movie done by my birthday. COVID kind of, my birthday's in November. I turned 50. I was going to do this big old premiere and so forth. Yeah. So I've met someone here in Vegas that does more cinematography. And so we're rebranding Boom Intelligence Group to be more of a it's a creative audience engagement agency. So it used to be a sales enablement audience engagement. Now we're going more creative for video, based on story-driven content. So probably some stuff that you guys do, less on the marketing side, more on just developing that story for others. And then we're going to use that as a bridge to get into more faith-based full-length feature film
That's
for
awesome.
for my 50s, which is what I'll be doing. And so all of these content pieces, I know it's temporary. I know that there's going to come a day where I'm not going to do a daily podcast, even though I enjoy it, because I'm going to be doing other things. So in this bridge, the podcast that I did one this morning. It's called the Always Go Big interview podcast, and it's specifically for individuals before they break big,
Right.
or they're already big. And one of the qualifying questions is, what's your big dream? And a lot of people don't have that. They can't answer that, and so they're not a good guest. So that's my guest format. So I have the 4 a.m. daily wake up micro podcast, 3 to 5 minutes, Monday through Friday, and then Always Go Big interview podcast. And then because I'm unemployed, I'm working on 2 more live broadcasts in more of a non-interview format. One is called What Say You, and I really want to do this. However, there needs to be interaction with comments. And so what I would like to do, my dream is to talk about tough topics civilly, like really sit down and talk. People think that there's white, what's it called? White privilege. So I'm brown. Where do I fall on that? Like, I don't feel privileged at all. And so why can't we talk about that in a civil fashion? So that might be an episode of What Say You. I don't believe you should use profanity in your content. I don't. And I know a lot of folks that do. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but can we come together? Like Gary Vee, right? He prides himself on swearing, and he wants to buy the Jets. Did you know he wanted to buy the Jets? The New York Jets?
I did. I knew that was his dream.
So what happens if he finds out that one of the owners, or 5 of the owners, or 3 of the owners are conservative and modest and they don't appreciate profanity? Would he change and give up profanity because his goal, his objective is to buy that football team, right? These are things. So
no, I don't think he would.
I don't think he would, because he calls it inauthentic, right? And so you get in this conversation of, well, I swear at home, I need to swear in my content. Not really, because you eliminate a portion of your audience. So what are you really trying to do? Are you trying to engage as big of an audience as you can, or are you you're focusing on your niche? And I don't give a, and when you say I don't give a and then bleep, you don't care about others? Really? Is that what we've become as a society? So I would like people to comment, Troy, I don't agree with you. Awesome. That's the purpose of the show, because when we talk about it civilly, I made a post on Facebook. I had 1,400 Facebook friends when the riot started. I now have 260. And what happened was, I made a post. They didn't know my heart, and I was assaulted via cyberbullying, whatever you want to call it, on social media. And because my business mentor is black, my spiritual mentor is black. I'm brown. I don't believe that I don't have privilege. I don't believe that I have privilege. And so when these people would attack me, I would direct message them and say, "Can we go on?" They were of color. I'm who I am. Can we go on Facebook Live and talk about this? No, and then we got on the phone. The guy's yelling at me the whole time, and so I want to talk about these discussions in a civil manner, because I think we can learn so much when we know what the other opinions are. And so that's What Say You. And then the third is called Boomcast, and that's more for story, how to tell better stories. And I don't know if that's going to be an interview format, or if it's just going to be, because I have LinkedIn Live now. Do I just spend 15 minutes talking about how to tell better stories? So those 3 will be 1 a month starting in September.
Okay.
And that'll be, so that's 3 weeks. And then I'll have my 4 a.m. daily wake up.
That sounds awesome, Troy.
Yeah.
So is a lot of this content, is it posted on YouTube? You have a YouTube channel?
I would love to get to a place where I can actually have a unique URL on YouTube, but you have to have 100 subscribers. So I'm at 35. So if y'all want to jump on and
Yes.
subscribe, that would be awesome. I do have a YouTube channel, and then mainly LinkedIn is my primary. That's where you guys see the content and whatnot. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Troy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
As you heard, everybody, you can find Troy Ritchie here on LinkedIn. He is here. I love the term he uses, spitting fire, or not spitting it sometimes, but he's got some great content, so you can definitely go and follow him. Let's build up his subscribers on YouTube and be watching out for his book. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody for joining us today on Zero to Hero. It's great to have you guys here. Really appreciate your support, and wishing you all a wonderful day.
Awesome.
See ya.